we are very concerned with how the December 8th officer-involved shooting went down. We are equally concerned about how the residents in this apartment complex behind me were left without resources, property was damaged, and the police department and the city walked away as if they had no liability and no interest in making sure that these families and their children were provided the services that were needed. We heard over 10 gunshots, including the non-lethal rounds. We want to make sure that the police and the mayor's office know that these two are human beings. The residents standing to my left have been impacted by this trauma. Their children have been impacted by this trauma. And when this city talks about gun violence, it must also provide the necessary resources to the community members that police impact when they fire and kill people with guns. That use of force does not just impact officers. It has impacted this entire community. Amanda, standing to my direct left, has had no vehicle, no transportation, and the city has done nothing to help her acquire transportation for her as a single mother with a young son, and she is incurring costs that were not done by her, but were done by SDPD and this city. We are asking for this city to come together to help Amanda get a car, because the city is telling her they can keep her car for 2 years. It's a total loss, and she has to deal with her insurance company. Her insurance company is not going to make her whole. She's not prepared to take on another 6-year car payment. She just made her last car payment this month. This city should have more compassion for Amanda and Shannon, who is to her left, whose family was here when the shooting took place. Officers have over 200 resources available to them, and the community got nothing. They got no crisis team that responded. They had the sheriff's department knock on their door hours later to ask them, can they see if bullets went through the wall? This is egregious negligence. We also grieve for Mr. Romero's family, a man who was going through a mental health crisis and needed help and was killed when he had never, in any video they have shown, pointed a weapon at the officers. He had never threatened the officers. We are gravely concerned about the officer who was so willing to immediately kill him. Continuously, 18 times you heard the other officer tell him to calm down and take a deep breath. Slow down, take a deep breath, take a breath. 18 times. His supervisor should have removed him from the scene and slowed it down. We believe that when officers escalate like this, that people will die. It will cause a contagious atmosphere among the officers where you hear dozens of bullets ring out, penetrating walls and bodies. As John Romero lay on this ground bleeding out. We believe that this shooting could have been resolved with him alive. And we hope that SDPD will look at what transpired here, because Mid-City has the highest use of force rate in San Diego PD for officer-involved shootings and deaths. And we are concerned. I'm gonna go ahead and have Marcus Boyd from Cop Watch in Imperial Beach now speak. He is the one who put the video together that I included in the press conference. And this is a community video that shows the community's point of view. So I thank him for that. And I also want to thank Aaron Leaf from Irate Productions and Cop Watch San Diego, who was the first to respond to this scene after the shooting and captured video as well. Go ahead.
Thank you, Tasha. And I really don't have anything to say about the video. It speaks for itself. What I would like to say is what you don't hear in the video, the edited portions from inside the house. I'm going to paraphrase, summarize. It was a mom calming children who were afraid for their lives, and she was assuring them that the police were there to help. And the children were ensured by that until the end result. She told them multiple times that they were there to help, and the guy needed help, and they were going to hit him with beanbag rounds and rubber bullets. And that's probably what should have happened. That's what the community expects. That's how the police portray their shootings and portray their policing. But what happens in the house on the other side is a lack of concern with what was behind that garage, a lack of concern with what happened to the residents after the shooting, and to a mother that lost her car. That's what really happened, not the press release that says that they rendered aid. We have video that shows there was no aid rendered.
That's right. And we're going to turn it to Malcolm from Southeast Cop Watch and Pillars of the Community. Thank you for being here, Malcolm.
Thank you. I think that for those who don't live in these type of circumstances, you have to try to imagine yourself living in a community that's virtually occupied, where you know that the occupying force has the license to kill you, to murder you. And then you're reminded that they have the weaponry and the machinery to make good on that license to kill you by living within miles of a shooting range. Right off Home Avenue. You can hear that. You can hear bullets ringing out. And as many shots are fired and as much target practice is being done at that facility, at that shooting range, officers still manage to shoot into people's houses, where you have to hide and pray that you're not murdered when the police come to the scene of a crime. Every year we spend millions of dollars on the police budget. This last budget cycle, it was increased. 33 to 35% of the budget goes of the general city budget goes to the police department, to law enforcement. And when somebody's house is shot into, when their property is damaged, a simple recompensation form is not even issued. An offer to repay for those damages is not issued. This is a problem. And then you have a man that's clearly having a mental breakdown. So what do? You send an officer to the scene that's also having a mental breakdown, where his fellow officer has to tell him repeatedly, relax, calm down. The officer needs a PERT unit himself, but he's sent to the crime, to a scene of a so-called crime where somebody's clearly in harm's way, in danger of harming himself. And the police come and say, we're here to help you. And how do you help? By murdering him. It's almost like when people say that when they see a bug suffering and they say, I'm just going to take it out of its misery and just squish it all the way. It's how we're treating human beings, like suffering bugs. And then we have the issue of non-lethal, or as they call it, less lethal force, which doesn't even really make sense. At least they don't have the audacity to call it non-lethal. But it makes no sense to couple less lethal force with lethal force at the same time. It's like taking a multivitamin and a shot of poison at the same time, hoping that the multivitamins are going to help you. We have some major issues in this city, and we're developing a culture where people are going to feel like when they see those who are supposed to be there to protect and serve, when they come, their only option is to fight or be murdered. This is a harmful and toxic type of society we live in, and I hope that we can immediately make amends for the damage that was caused, and that's just the financial. The psychological trauma cannot be repaired. That's going to take years and years of assistance, help, prayers, and I'm sorry to hear what happened to you all, and I do pray that and hope that that you're given relief, comfort, and that those scars heal in a speedy manner. We're all in the same boat. Anybody that's living in these cities, especially these areas that are more occupied, we live with the threat of our life and our liberty being taken away from us every day. And we pay for that. Money is being taken out of our paychecks every month for us to pay for our own oppression and our own occupation. We have to change this. Thank you.
Again, our plea is for the city, SDPD, and this community to help this apartment complex with supportive services for the trauma that they've endured, and also for a single mother who is without transportation, especially during the holidays, asking for community members and even car dealerships, if they can find it in their heart to help provide a vehicle to this family, so this mom can be who she was prior to having her car totally destroyed by gunfire from SDPD officers. Do you have any questions?
Can I follow up? I can follow up after or now. I have several. But
okay. No, they don't want to speak, so okay. They want to ask questions.
You mentioned, Tasha, that but beyond what you touched on, they should have removed the officer, for example. Is there anything else that they should have done?
Yeah, they could have slowed down. They were all covered in cover mode. Cover is when you get behind something so that if someone shoots at you, you have cover. You heard multiple times Kurt was on the way. You heard multiple times that other more senior officers were on the way. Usually in this type of hot call situation, there's also negotiators and SWAT that comes. We've seen it in southeastern San Diego and across the city where SWAT has come and has been able to de-escalate the situation and get the person out without ever having to fire a round. These are things that could have happened because he never, ever, not even one time, engaged the officers to threaten them. He was only a threat to himself. And the officer who was having a mental health crisis during this engagement should have been removed by his supervisor, because there is a such thing as contagious behavior and contagious violence. And that is what we saw in the video that was released by SD, their body camera, because immediately the third round of beanbag is fired, and almost milliseconds a bullet is fired, and then there's multiple bullets fired by what we now know is 2 to 3 different officers. Never have they shown any video, because they don't have any video showing him aiming his gun at them. Matter of fact, when the car is here and he's behind it, there's video showing him put the gun back to his head. And they shoot him. We know that no officer is going to be charged in this situation. But we also know that this situation should not be repeated again and again and again. A total of 8 to 9 times here in City Heights in the last 3 years, 3 to 4 years. They are quick to respond and within minutes quick to use force. Their training shows them how to cover and wait in positions where they cannot be harmed. And we're just simply asking that they use that tactic. We're not asking for officers to put themselves in harm's way. We're also not asking them to immediately fire upon community members, but that they keep telling they're here to help and unfortunately execute. Right, Ron Bata's office.
How do you feel about it?
You know, it is just according to the new bill that is out, this is just a check the box. Whenever someone has a weapon, we know that this was a BB gun, so it wasn't a gun. This is a check the box that we have to investigate when someone is shot that's unarmed. And clearly, when they shot him, he was not armed with a firearm. He had a BB gun, and he was clearly only a threat to himself. But because AB 392 also have the perception of officers, we know that their perception in their reports will state that they felt their lives were injected, even though there's video that doesn't show that, because nothing was being engaged with them. He wasn't running at them. He didn't point any weapon at them. I believe that they were afraid. And because of that, you know, we're not here standing saying don't call 911. I would never tell anyone to not call 911. But the community needs to know that when they do, in City Heights, somebody will die. That officers go to. There were dozens of officers out here, from the Sheriff's Department to the Department of Justice. There were SDPD officers. There were training officers out here. They take these and they try to learn from them. But what we're seeing in their release of data is questioning, what are they learning from this? Because the attitudes and culture of Mid-City Division is arrived to a scene and become aggressive within minutes. And each use of force that you see where officers fired on somebody with their weapons, it was an escalation. And and they're telling these people, we're here to help you, we're here to help you. And unfortunately, murdering them is not helping them. And so if they're putting themselves in a situation to have to fire upon people, then that's a training issue.
So in terms of the aftermath, just to clarify, again, so that you can elaborate on, that'd be great. So did they ever like go check to see if anyone was in the garage, for example, and hurt? Or because what I heard was that it was not going to actually until way later when the sheriff's department contacted it. So can you clarify? First of all, did they ever check on you?
So it's my understanding from their radio call that they checked on Amanda and her son. And they said that they were clear. They said it was a woman and her child in the house, and they were not hit with gunfire. However, the other home where Shannon and her partner and her kids live had not been checked on. And no one, when they came to the door of Amanda, we believe they knocked on this door and not just her door, but there's a door right here next to the garage, but she could hear it. Yeah, she could hear them knocking. And so no one came in to see if bullets penetrated in Amanda's immediate, this is her garage. If it came straight through to enter her home. They just talked to her.
Knocked on her door and talked to her there? Or
Yes.
Called, or?
They knocked on her door and talked to her there. She's okay, her son was okay. But it wasn't until the sheriffs came that then it was like, at 11 o'clock, this happened at 3, it's 11 o'clock, they're knocking on the door, you know, and then they open the garage and they cut out the wall and they leave it like that.
And just to clarify, so did the bullets, you mentioned a wall, where did the bullets lodge?
The bullets lodged they went through the wall of the garage door, and they went through this wall into her garage, damaged a freezer. They went into this wall, and they were able to retrieve the bullets. And they went directly forward, and they went through the wall into what is the staircase. The staircase would stop the bullet. They were able to retrieve it in her house.
Yeah, and this wall right here, that's like a wall.
And then they had us
in that wall, right?
Yeah.
Wow.
And then they had us check my living room wall because that was right behind that. So my wall, my boys' bedroom wall is behind this garage, and then our living room wall. And they had us check both walls for anything, and we didn't see it. But again, this was like 11 o'clock at night. Like no one ever came to check. 9 hours after the fact. No one ever checked on her. She was just like I was on the phone with her when it happened and I heard it. And like so I knew she was okay, but nobody ever checked on her.
And then has there been any follow-up with the police? Oh, you know that day, like late. The only thing, I know you guys said that you didn't want to say much, but is there anything more about this experience that you guys want to share about how difficult it is to deal with something like this? Because I don't think a lot of people citywide have gone through something like this. Obviously, talking about youth support is common in this community, but to be in the middle of a police shooting is quite a difficult experience. So is there anything about that you would want to say about what that experience is like?
Yeah, I just moved here, so already experiencing something like this is already shocking. And then to have my son at home, he's only 9, you know, to have to hear, witness it, and hear me telling him it's going to be okay type of thing. It wasn't, you know, and then for 9 hours, I got to see the body here. You know, so, and we couldn't leave the house anyway, they wouldn't run us, so, you know, we have a lot of trauma to process. You know, it's going to be a lot for him.
office to, the city, that those types of resources are needed. When the shooting started, the school was there were people on the playground. And so imagine with how society is now, hearing all that gunfire and you think it's at your school. We know that when shootings happen, that it doesn't just impact the immediate people that are engaged in the incident and the scene. It impacts entire communities, entire schools. And this city should show compassion, should want this city to thrive, and should have equity in resources when these incidents happen to this city, especially when it is SDPD officers who are at the other end of the gun.
Really quickly to go back, if they offered you, when you said psychologist or something else probably be the better option, what did they say?
They met with the therapy dog, because they brought the therapy dog to campus, because that was like, I guess, their protocol after a lockdown, and then just the school counselor that's already there.
Yes.
Yeah.
But the officers,
that was the therapy dog.
but the officers immediately got the care that was needed. And that's fine. But what about them? What about the people in this complex, the children in the schools?
There's other children.
What about these folks? This city has a responsibility to its community members. And we're asking this city to show up. We're asking community members, psychologists, come in and support these individuals and their children at this complex, at that school. It shouldn't just be, oh, it happened. They have to live with this every day. Every day. And then I don't damage my own vehicle, but I gotta figure out how I'm gonna get to work, get my son to school, get him to his appointments. How am I going to handle even the holidays? No police department or city should leave community members that they say they value out on a limb. And that's what they've done.
Almost done here, my end. Amanda, if you're comfortable, do you mind sharing what you were doing while this was going on? We heard about you trying to comfort your son, but and did you know what was happening?
No, my son was homesick that day. We went out for a walk. We just walked in the house, and I'm walking up the stairs, and I hear he has a gun. And I'm like, what? And then I came up to my living room window to see what's going on, and I saw one of the officers just pretty erratic in where he was pointing his gun, and I'm like, what's going on? And then from there, I told my son to get down, and then within a few minutes,
Yeah. Were you guys away and just heard the gunshots, right?
no, we saw it.
You saw it happen?
Yeah.
Basically from your bedroom window.
Yeah, for his bedroom as well. Because we didn't know. I didn't know where the gunfire was going to go. Living room, my kitchen. I had no clue where the gunfire was going to go. So I had to go to the opposite direction and then lay down.
Mind sharing the age of your two children?
I have 5.
5, okay.
15, 14, 12, 10, and 8.
Okay. That's all mine. Thank you for sharing.
Thank you for being here as well. Marcus, did you have any questions?
No, except for one thing. I don't know if David, if you noticed, at the beginning of the Cop Watch San Diego video, when when he arrives on scene, one distraught officer can be seen being comforted and then walking away. If you take a close look, when he's first told that the cop watcher is approaching, he actually grabs his gun and then puts it back in the holster and then walks away. His reaction to hearing that a cop watcher was coming was for him to grab his gun. And we as cop watchers find that troublesome. Obviously.
Yeah. But I imagine it's your car that we see in the video that's like right here, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
This is a beanbag round.
Yeah, another day, unfortunately.
9mm shotgun.
Patient.
Shotgun.
Way.
A couple of more shotguns. 9mm. And then there was a one going straight into the apartment way up here. And we thought there was another one over here. Oh, I think it's right up on the wood board here. And then another ricochet back in here. So we're going to go offline now. Appreciate everybody logging in. I'm going to have a better audio of this up very soon. One love.
Well,